Assalamu alaikum. You're watching Pakistan Television World with the special transmission on the floods. It has been a very terrible monsoon for Pakistan. Whether you talk about Karachi, Sindh area, you talk about KP, Gilgit-Baltistan, you talk about Punjab, and last but not the least, I think the most affected province of Pakistan is perhaps Balochistan. Just look at this number, 33 million, 3.3 crore people are currently affected because of these floods. You talk about the death toll, the official numbers suggest 1,033. That's according to NDMA. But this is definitely going to go up. You talk about 100 districts of all the 4 provinces submerged under water. Over 1 million livestock, including cows, buffalo, and other cattle, they have been swept away by the floods. You talk about the kharif crops, 80% of it has been destroyed. You talk about the future produce, I'm not even sure whether we'll be able to prepare the land for the crops that are supposed to be cultivated for the next season. Just look at the prices of fruit and vegetables. They have multiplied because most of the onions and tomatoes, they are the produce of Balochistan and Sindh area. Green chilies, you talk about the regular vegetables and fruit perhaps. It's alarming. 2,000 people have been injured so far. This is the official figure which I'm giving you. Over 500 various cases of snake bites only in district Rajanpur have been reported. As I earlier mentioned, now it is not only about the rescue and relief operation that is currently going on, and there is another spell expected, plus the water coming in from KP into Punjab, it is going to further go down into Sindh. That is going to create a lot of problems. Now, a lot of foreign aid has started pouring in. Countries like Canada, UAE, Saudi Arabia, China, they're all helping Pakistan, even England. Military, again, is the only institute with the desired, I would say, apparatus to look after the problems. And they are doing their utmost. Even the chief, the prime minister, everybody is out looking at what has happened to Pakistan and just looking at the magnitude of devastation. Moving on, now medical supplies again is something very important, and once this rescue and relief operation is going to be over, then the rehabilitation will start. But I've covered the earthquake of 2005. I've covered the floods in 2010, but I swear I believe this is a much bigger catastrophe. It's unbelievable, beyond imagination, and this is exactly what is happening in Pakistan. Now, what needs to be done? How do we need to go forward? What sort of steps the government need to take? I mean, giving a certain amount of money to the deceased and the injured, that is one. But look at these visuals. I mean, how can these people gain that livelihood back? It might take months, it might take years. But this is what the story is like. It's tragic. Yes, this is exactly what is going on. To talk about this, let me quickly introduce you to our panel, since this particular transmission is going to go on for 2 hours from 4 to 6. So we have with us for this particular segment, which is going to be from 4 to 5 p.m. Since we will be talking about the floods and the relief efforts, we have with us in the studio is Muhammad Abdullah Deol. He's a flood risk management person who knows exactly how to sort of calculate what to do, and I still remember he was one of our guests in the Eid transmission also, and we even then spoke that this particular spell is going to be much more than what we all went through in 2010, and exactly that's what has happened. Even the Met Office was issuing alerts, but unfortunately nothing was done. Nothing was done in those days. A lot of lives could have been saved if appropriate measures were taken at the right time. But thank you very much, sir, for your time. In our program, we'll also be talking to our guests in Balochistan, so we could understand what exactly is going on in Balochistan. DG Khan, again, another hard-hit area. You talk about the issue of Karachi, again, a lot of problem out there as well. And not only the monsoon rains, but perhaps lots of times the low pressure was developed and they experienced a lot of rain in a small period of time. So if you're looking at 200 mm, let's say within a matter of few hours, then exactly this is going to happen what has happened. We will also be talking to a couple of our correspondents, and we'll get to know what's going on in Peshawar, in other areas like Nowshera. We all know what Nowshera is currently facing. A lot of people have been displaced, living in shelters. God knows what's going on out there as well. But now let me start off from you. Obviously, the magnitude of this flood and the scale is something which we have never witnessed before. Though we all know that Pakistan is among those countries which are very volatile, and when it comes to the global warming or climate change issue, most vulnerable at the same time, maybe among the top 5 countries. Now, this sort of a rain spell of monsoon was unprecedented. Do you think this is what is going to happen in the future as well? I mean, because how can you control this? This is beyond my imagination, at least, sir. Your take, you're a specialist.
Thank you very much for calling me. I would like to start my conversation by explaining or talking about the types of floods, because there are, just like cancer, there are so many types of it, and every disease has its own treatment. Just like that, every kind of flooding has its own kind of treatment. For example, there is urban flooding, pluvial flooding, fluvial, coastal, estuarian, and then we have this torrential. So what we see in Sindh, if we talk about Sattar city, it's fluvial flooding. Pluvial flooding. Pluvial flooding is the one in which your sewage system just choked. It's just stuck. It's not because of enough rain, it's because that your drainage system wasn't designed.
Poor management.
Poor management.
Bad governance.
Bad governance, extremely bad governance, I would say that. And also, we have no waste management. We just throw all our trash on the roads, and then all those manholes and all those drainages are filled with filth, and their chokes of water has nowhere to go. And we poorly design those drainage systems that there is no proper slope, that the water has nothing to go. This is the first one. And how can we tackle it? Let me give you the example, Islamabad. You look at the old sectors, water never stands here. It always passes through because the hydrological studies were done perfectly. But if you look at the new sectors, E11, D12, always flooded. If it's just the climate change, I mean, why it is differently to half of the city and why
you can't do much about climate change being a Pakistani. But definitely you can plan
I will
the
go
cities
to all
in a
those
way.
things, which city is affected by which part, and where is the climate change effects, and I will go to everything. So if we look at this past, there are so many green spaces, so many parks. We think that the parks is for just entertainment or for us to go around and walk. No, the basic function of parks is to have open spaces for the water, so that the ground can suck the water into it and recharge our groundwater level and save us from flooding. That's why in the old sectors we see a lot of green belts, a lot of parks. Its function is to save us when there is flooding. It's not because for us to basically go around and have a good time, but just because flood has to come in some specific time, so we use this free space in a good way. Then we talk about Balochistan. Is torrential rainfall. What is torrential rainfall? Torrential rainfall is when within a span of 6 hours, a cloud just bursts and it is more than 100 mm within that time, then you have this torrential rainfall, and sometimes it can exceed 300 mm as well. I mean, at the moment, totally it's more than 300 mm in Balochistan. So what this is something
that triggers the flash floods.
Flash floods, and this is something about the climate.
I think one quick comment, since you're talking about the flash flood. I exactly remember 2010 monsoon, and I remember September was the month. We were all over Pakistan visiting. PTV was very active. You know, we were getting the info, what's going on, delivering food, ration, even the cash. And then there was like this transmission for an entire week, and we were gathering money from left, right, and center in cash and kind, and people were generous as always, Pakistanis, as you know. And then when we visited, I was like surprised to see, but this time even if it's more, But one thing which we never witnessed then, which we witnessed now, were the big, huge boulders, as big as a room. What is that phenomena?
Okay.
Erosion or what exactly?
Okay. So the thing is, if I can show you this on my phone, I have a graph here that I downloaded from the Pakistan Meteorological Department, and if I show it here on the screen, here's this is a graph, and if I share it with you, it shows from 1961 till 2020. It is 2 years older, and you see that line above 300 mm. So we are constantly in flood-prone area, and there's constant.
So
flooding
this is
in
going
Pakistan.
to be
It is,
like
it
this.
is not going to stop. It's going to increase.
You
So
have
how
to
can
look
we
after
stop?
the infrastructure this time, and you
So-
have to build
so-
your bridges accordingly, your road infrastructure.
What is the need of the hour that we must do flood mapping? There is no flood modeling of Pakistan in the past 75 years. You go to any first world country,
So
they have
the
designed
kind
for
of damage,
100 years.
forget about
NDMA is
yeah.
basically working as NDRA. This is National Disaster Management Authority, but it's working as National Disaster Response Authority. Disaster is always managed before it happened. That's called disaster management. For example, I set this building on fire, Rescue 112 come, and they just extinguish the fire. Or what are you going to say to those guys? Oh, wow, you're the great disaster managers? No. The disaster management is that we make
It's
this
prior to
building that it never
something
sets on fire. We have everything controlled here. It's fireproof, or we have those fire exits, or we have those cylinders, carbon dioxide.
Precautionary measures basically
Yes,
should be in
we
place. Yeah?
lack all those things. We have no flood modeling. We have no flood zones. We have no
So
flood hazards.
we
In Sabah-
never had the concentration actually towards the real issues. Let me also bring in Afia Salam, environmentalist. She's from Karachi, joining us on Skype. Assalamu alaikum, Afia. Hello. Assalamu alaikum, Afia, can you hear me? Hello. Anyway, now talking about another very important factor.
If we talk about
please go ahead,
the
finish
flash
your argument
flooding
here.
in Sawad, we saw a lot of hotels just getting away. You know why we see so much more than the 2010? Because of, sorry to say this word, but I would like to say stupid urbanization without any management. According to the KPK laws, not I'm talking about the entire Pakistan, KPK laws says, the government says, this is the river, and across 150 to 200 feet, there must be no construction because there are 5 seasons. Summer, winter, spring,
Encroachment, sir, was the issue.
So if the hotel is inside the river bed, which everybody is like, oh my God, God should help us. How can God help you if you are trying to cross the road with your eyes closed? You're going to get hit by a car.
Absolutely.
That
there you go.
you
Makes
can
a lot of sense.
abduct a land from a poor guy anywhere in the world, but you cannot abduct a land from nature. It's God. It
So
belongs to
nature,
God. So nature just took its place plus.
And then, you know, on top of that, I mean, these
First of all,
encroachments
you
and
need to
everything.
go
Absolutely, I
back.
totally agree with you on that. Absolutely. Assalamu alaikum, Afia. Hello. I think there's some technical problem. We'll try to catch her on the telephone because I really would like to know what's going on in Karachi. Now, another sort of question now. This is the first time that, you know, when we hear that 430,000 cubic water is flowing under XYZ barrage. And when you look at those visuals, they are so scary.
Yes.
You know, God knows what's the depth, what sort of a current. So whosoever falls, you know, family is lucky if they find the body.
Yeah.
And, you know, in so many cases this happened. Then, you know, obviously, as far as the resources are concerned, I mean, we have limited resources, and this was at a much larger scale.
Yeah, even if
from
we have
GB
resources,
to
we're
Karachi.
talking about 33 million people, and it's, I mean, more than the population of so many countries. So there are so many 33 million people affected. It's not easy
sir,
for
this
government and
Denmark,
for everyone.
Norway, Sweden, Finland.
Yeah, Slovenia is just 2 million.
Right? All these 4 countries put together, all the entire Scandinavia, still 3.3, crore is like
wow, equal
double
to the
number
people that are being flooded
Just
and
imagine.
affected. Yes, and you know what is the most dangerous part about this flooding is the threat to our economy, and we're already going to the economical crisis.
There's going to be a global recession, and
Yes.
absolutely.
Okay. And what about the malnutrition and the food? Forget about the agriculture. Talk about meat. Talk about dairy products. talk about all the sheep and goats and buffaloes.
The livelihood. Basically, these poor people, their life is dependent on those.
Our life. I mean, okay, we're not flooded.
Milk,
but if
butter,
we
yeah,
don't
exactly,
have the dairy
everything,
products,
everything.
We're going to have malnutrition function.
Everything.
And
Sir, let me also engage Abdul Sattar. He's a social worker from DG Khan. Assalamu alaikum.
Ji walaikum assalam, sir.
Abdul Sattar, good to hear from you. Tell us what's going on out there. What's the condition as of today, as of right
you,
now?
sir.
And what sort of relief and rescue operation is going on? Because DI Khan, I remember, I visited the tank area in 2010, and I was scared to see what had happened then. And this time they are telling us that this flood is much larger and devastating as far as the previous one, if you compare these two.
Sir, thank you very much for making a contact with me. Yes, sir, I belong to Dera Ghazi Khan. The situation in Dera Ghazi Khan is very precarious and disturbing, and it is changing day by day basis. The Dera Ghazi Khan is an area divided into two parts. The western side, the western border, that is full of mountains called Salam. And the eastern side, the eastern border, that is the mighty river Indus is flowing on the eastern part. When the rains come in the mountainous areas of Dera Ghazi Khan, they took the took the shape of torrents, and those streams and torrents caused the floods. In the last 15 to 20 days, those torrents and streams caused heavy floods in those areas, and they have affected the children, all segments of the society, and they have damaged the livestock as well. They have ruined or destroyed the standing crops there. On the other hand, now the challenge is arising from the eastern side as well. The mighty river Indus, that is now it is running on a higher level, and it is now I have been told by the officials that the Tonsa barrage, at Tonsa barrage, 5 lakh cubic water is flowing at this point of time. So it's a big number. You can say the moderate to high flood is going on in the Indus River.
And what's the capacity of Tonsa barrage?
Sorry?
What's the capacity of Tonsa barrage? Because 500,000, that's not a joke. That's a very, very big flood you're talking about.
Yes, sir. The highest capacity, sir, of the Tonsa barrage is 10 lakh cubic. That is the capacity of the Tonsa barrage. And if it can be 12 lakh at full scale, 12 lakh cubic at full scale. For some time, it can be 12 lakh cubic as well. But now at this point of time, 5 lakh cubic water is flowing in the mighty Indus River on the eastern side, and it is on the rise. I have been told by the official that 7 to 8 lakh cubic water will cross the Tonsa barrage lately at night, tonight at 12 p.m. as well.
Oh my God, that is not good news.
Yes,
Secondly, talk about the rescue activities. Talk about what exactly is the weather like. Is it going to rain again? And also tell us that, what is the current situation as far as people are concerned? What exactly is the district management doing out there, and so on and so forth?
Sir, the situation, and I will tell you that for the last 3 days there have been no rain in the mountainous areas. So as far as the torrents are concerned, the people are satisfied. The water is lowering down in those areas. The people are getting their relief, and they are rescued by the district administration. And I will also appreciate the efforts taken by the Deputy Commissioner Dera Ghazi Khan. He's a very proactive man, Mr. Anwar Variya.
One has to be, sir, during these times. This is exactly what they're supposed to do. Yes?
Yes, yes, sir. And he is, sir, leading from the front. And I will also appreciate the work done by the Rescue 122. They are also doing their best work in these areas.
All right.
But still, I can say that there is a shortage of food. And,
There is, or there is
people
no
are-
shortage as such at the moment?
Yes, sir. There is a shortage of food, tents. The people are looking for the shelter. The people, especially the children and the women, they are the most affected segment of the society.
Plus,
The
obviously,
volunteers,
fodder
the
for
civil
the
society,
cattle. I mean, if anybody has been able to save a few, I would say fodder for the cattle, milk, or maybe high energy biscuits for the kids, clean drinking water, cooked food. Is it appropriate to send the cooked food there, or do you think people can manage to cook on their own?
Sir, it is better to give the cooked food to the affected areas, affected people, because in this precarious situation, they do not have the facility to cook the vegetables or something else.
Okay.
So it is better to give them cooked food, and the people are saying to have more tents, and the children milk.
All right,
as
shelter
well as
basically you're talking about. Now, one last quick comment also, Abdul Sattar. Other than the government institutions, for example, military, or as you mentioned about 1122 units of rescue, and perhaps a couple of other institutions as well. NDMA must be doing some work on their own as well, Army Engineering Corps and so on and so forth. What about the private sector? Because I remember in 2010, a lot of foundations, they came up and they were very kind to deliver in cash and kind, both.
Yes, sir. The people are doing their best job. The organization, the private NGOs, they are working. But these NGOs, you cannot say that NGOs, but you can say that the local social workers and the local community, they are doing the work of rescue and relief. They are providing the food, shelter, the animal food, cattle food. They are providing. You can say the civil society and the community, those are not affected by the flood. They are protecting their brothers at this time of distress.
All right. बहुत shukriya. Thank you very much. Sattar sir, now we also with us Ameer Ali. He's a journalist from Balochistan. Let's hear his story. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam.
Ameer Wali Saab, thank you very much for talking to PTV World. Now, tell us what's going on. Where exactly are you in Balochistan? What are you seeing around you? What's going on over there?
Right now, I'm in Uttal. Uttal is the Tehseen of Lasbela district.
Okay,
this
Lasbela.
time, this current monsoon that started in early days of July and continued for 2 continuous months, and that really affected entire Balochistan. Apart from Makran division, the rest of Balochistan, especially the northern belt, the eastern belt, and the southern belt, they were washed away either or they were under heavy rain. Balochistan, 10 districts, they were declared to be calamity at, includes Lasbela district, Nasirabad district, Jalmaksi, Quetta, Bolan, Kachchi, Loralai, and so other districts are there. I cannot name them right now. They have been badly hit. I live in Lasbela. Lasbela was under heavy rain for 2 continuous months, where people, houses were washed away. Their lively stocks, properties, and other crops, they all were washed away, and they were disconnected from the big cities, especially the RCD road that was disconnected in Uttal. Landa Bridge was washed away, and they did not have any access to connect themselves with the cities and the local administration to get something help. So therefore, they were under severe bad conditions.
Now, okay, tell us more about the current, obviously you spoke about the relief efforts and everything, but this whole episode is at such a huge mega scale that it's unbelievable to even imagine for a moment. A lot of people have suffered, especially in Balochistan initially, because the target of monsoon was perhaps Balochistan, later on became Sindh, and then we started seeing what was going on in KP. Now, tell us about the current weather. Is it still rainy, or you believe, because when we talk about Rawalpindi and Islamabad and this Potoha region, I see that on my telephone, perhaps there could be a bit of shower in the evening, but next 6-7 days are clear. So, and that's a very good sign. What about La Spela and the related areas? The weather is going to remain clear because that is going to provide a lot of, I would say, relief for the rescue workers.
It is almost clear for last 2-3 days, but before 3-4 days, Quetta was badly affected and it was disconnected around 10 hours. Technologically, by roads, in all ways, it was disconnected. And Jalmaksi, Nasirabad, these two districts were badly were disturbed. Lasbela was saved from this last spells. And, in Lasbela, especially people, they live in small villages or goats. They do not have any other source to earn or they get their livelihood. They believe or they rely on the crops or the livelihood stocks. They have been washed away, and they do not have water to drink. They are drinking the water in which their cattle have died. Smell is coming in that, and a kind of catastrophic situation occurred in Lasbela, and still we can.
Now another important. What about the food situation, food and medicine?
Actually, the government is trying to give them timely foods or timely medicines, but I don't think this is the real solution or the permanent solution. They need to be compensated permanently, or they need to be compensated access. Because their houses entire houses are washed away. They do not have shelter. God forbid if other 2 or 1 more spell comes, they do not have space or place or shelter to get themselves safe there. They are in bad situation. Right now they are in bad situation. A kind of humanitarian crisis occurred in Lasbela especially, and they do not have foods to eat even. Especially
because of the infrastructure. So many bridges have been washed away, and the road infrastructure that's been totally destroyed. I mean, when we got to know that over 1,000 kilometers of road is only destroyed and damaged during these floods, I mean, that's not a joke. Just imagine it takes days and days to even construct a road for a kilometer or so. So just imagine the kind of damage that Pakistan has experienced. Secondly, sir, when you talk about the people who are still stuck, what about the rescue and relief operations? Are they being provided some sort of facility like airlifting and all, so that they could be, placed in comparatively better places which are higher? Because the kind of situation that if I close my eyes and I see that the river is swelling on one side, Koh Salaman bringing in flash floods from the other, it's like a sandwich kind of situation. The person who was telling us about DG Khan, when you talk about Balochistan, it's a mountainous terrain basically. So we are not even sure when we say that 1,033 people have died in Pakistan. The actual number could be so high. All these missing people, I mean, God knows what's going on. Tell us about that, sir.
Actually, this time in this monsoon, they rain more than beyond the expectation. The government was prepared, but they did not expect such heavy rain. And right now, the situation is so many bridges have been washed out, but they have alternative right now. But if small rain comes, small river gets flow, they gets again washed out, and the road will be blocked for 1, 2, or 3 days more. And the food, the vegetable, they get stuck there and they get totally destroyed there.
Now, Professor, one more point. What about the current situation of the dams in Balochistan?
See, dams, many dams have been washed away, or they have been, they are not right now safe there. But the big dam like Hub Dam that is saved, and the other dams, especially in Job and other areas, when the dams were broken, the heavy water came and that washed away the population. That enter into villages or the urban areas. They disturbed people a lot. Otherwise, it was they were under heavy rain, but the breaking or washing away the dams, they have badly affected the people.
Very, very tragic. And since we'll be talking about the crops, Kharif produce most of it. According to certain figures, this could go up to 80%. That's been washed away. And the next crop in the next season, we're not even sure whether we will be able to prepare the ground for that. Now, what is the current situation regarding that? Because I'll just give you one example. Today, early in the morning when I was watching the television, I got to know that the prices of tomatoes, they have soared almost by 100%. You talk about onions, 400 rupees a kg. You talk about, for example, other related produce that is normally coming in to Punjab from Sindh and Balochistan. Normally, the reason which is given is that, sir, because now the effect of that produce that has been destroyed is going to come later, but currently because of the transportation problem, the prices have soared. Look at the current inflation, the kind of damage that we are going to witness at the end of the day could be 1 to 1.5% of our GDP. We can witness that. You mark my words for that. Sir, comment on that, please.
Right now, in Lasbela district, the cotton crops was ready to be collected or to cut down. Laborers were on the field. Suddenly, the rain started, and rain did not allow them to cut down, and they were later washed away. Remember that the crops is their only source to earn money here, and their lands are right now not in level, and they have been washed out, and they would not be able enough to again manage this ground for another crops and for 1 or more 2 years. And that really disturbed their livelihood and the national economy as well. And right now you can see the onion, the tomato that is being sold down and market around 250 per kg, and because of this severe effects, we will see it. Now, our government can compensate them. I don't think Balochistan government can help out this. A federal government needs, I think, needs
all
to
right,
call
sir.
upon
All right.
community.
Definitely, Ameer Wali Saab will also be in touch with you to get further updates. But thank you very much for sharing what you have seen. Now, we have also been joined in now by Afia Salam. She's an environmentalist based in Karachi. Assalamu alaikum, Afia. I hope you can hear me this time, right?
I can.
Perfect. So, ma'am, what's going on in Karachi? How's the weather like? And please enlighten us. Tell us what's happening.
Well, Karachi, this is the second day when we have seen the sun for the whole day. So until 2 days ago, 3 days ago, it was still drizzling in parts. Karachi has been, most of the city is in a shambles. The roads are like present the look of a lunar landscape. And there are still a lot of people who are displaced, whose houses have been damaged. And of course, it's a huge mess, which is slowly tottering back to normality. And I don't know how much longer it will be like that, and how we can go back to the position.
And Afia, how about the weather forecast? Is it going to remain clear? Because
if you look at the short forecast, yes, we do have more rain coming. If we look at the longer term forecast that was given to Pakistan by the South Asian monsoon forecast organization, so they forecast that forecast said that monsoon will last from July to September. So we haven't even entered September yet. Now, whether it's going to be as intense as we experienced in July and August, that we have to wait and see. We have to keep looking at the forecast. Now, I think this is maybe a welcome habit, unfortunately kicked in by the disastrous rains that we've had, that now people are actually looking at forecasts. It was only, a certain fraternity which would look at it and then...
after these floods, I think the government also will get really geared up. that, it shouldn't happen, because this is what the reality is. This is what Al Gore has been telling the whole world, but nobody took him seriously. Now you are in the line of fire. Simple as that. And plus the infrastructure that you already have. I mean, look at the level of encroachments. I mean, honestly speaking, when people die, I feel the pain. But when I see those huge hotels being built on encroachments, even in Swat or elsewhere, even in Karachi, I mean, this was supposed to happen sooner or later, and that happened. But the point is
yes,
that exactly, a lot of people have lost their jobs now. The crops have been destroyed. Their livestock, it's been washed away, taken along with the flood. I mean, I'm not even sure that, this current rescue and relief operation is going to go on. But the rehabilitation and the reconstruction and then resettling of all these people, that is going to be hell of a task. And this is not going to be something which you could do in months. It might take years, because 2010, I remember
this calamity is a different calamity from the one we experienced in 2010, and that took a very long time to get people back. But we must also remember that there are places that we will not be able to go back. Those places are not going to be habitable, and that is why we need to also draw the attention.
Banks have been eroded all along.
Yeah, not just that. I mean, eroded all along, but the places which are why the people suffered damage was because they were sited all in the wrong places. You mentioned the hotels in Swat, you mentioned people living alongside in the river bed, and places which are the natural drains. So they should not be allowed to go back there, but then where will they go?
Ma'am, that is, you know what, that is going to be something which is going to be impossible, because I'll just give you one example. In 2005, when we all experienced that unfortunate incident on the 8th of October, the earthquake. Ma'am, those people, 100,000 people were killed, right? Simply, God knows the number about the injuries. Some lost their limbs, some lost their loved one. God knows what they have gone through. But there was a damage at a certain scale. We ended up getting a good amount of money through the foreign countries, like $7.6 billion, I remember. We never had the capacity to spend it. And the way the money was spent, God knows how many pockets were filled. But the point now is that in this case, you're not talking about an area as big as Switzerland, and that also is in the north. You're talking about the entire Pakistan, the infrastructure, the crops, the produce, the overall impact could be up to 1.5% as far as GDP is concerned. That is what is going to happen. But ma'am, you can't tell people to move from point A, where they've been living for maybe 40, 50 years, and move to point B. How can you shift the entire DHA phase 5, 6, 7 and 8 in Karachi and tell them to move to Bahria Town for that matter? What I'm saying is that this is not going to happen. You can create the awareness.
I'm actually embarrassed that even DHA is being mentioned, because what has happened over here is, it's not even a patch on the calamity that the entire country is facing. So DHA is just one teeny little part of Karachi, where many of the people who live still have the coping capacity to bounce back at some level. But look at the rest of the country. We don't have these people don't have the coping capacity. So I think the focus should move away from places right now where there is some kind of a coping capacity and to bounce back. But the focus should be on the people who have nothing right now and are not going to have anything for a very long time. Because we are right now in the rescue stage. The relief and rescue stage.
All right. Ma'am, our guest in the studio, Muhammad Abdullah Deol, he is basically someone who is an expert on flood risk management. He wants to put a question to you. Please go ahead, sir.
Actually, first, I want to agree to her what she was saying and what you were saying. But the DHA was not there for 40, 50 years. They just started to come now. And now we are seeing massive and destructive flooding, because now we have started to sit in those beds.
City planning, urban planning, these are all...
Yes, we have to do that. That's what my point is. If you were saying people cannot move there, it's very simple. Next time we tell them when there is flood, we are not going to help you. We're not going to give you any aid, because you yourself are asking, Bel mujhe maar. So we can't help you for that. When we built Tarbela Dam, Mangla Dam, we moved a lot of population, right? Why can't we move it now? We can. And also, when there was some war on terror going on, there were a lot of IDPs from the Waziristan side. We moved them. Why can't we move it now? This is something of a threat more
That was
bigger.
at this scale, sir. You're talking about the entire Pakistan.
Yes, we have to.
You can't reshuffle them,
we
sir.
have to. We have to. There is no other option. You do flood modeling. You have those flood hazard maps. You tell them. If you're sitting
Don't
here,
you think better
we're not gonna
governance,
have you.
good management
This is
perhaps the
governance.
real...
This is the governance. This is what the entire...
So the
well,
Met
so
Office informed the
first thing-
government 3
the
months ago that this is what is going to happen.
So in 3
Where
months,
was the government there?
In 3 months, what can government do? They cannot reshift a hotel. If you build it in Sawat, you're going to die. What can they do? The only thing you can do is to evacuate the place. If I'm going to build a house in the middle
This
of a
is a
Kashmir
reactive
highway,
approach.
in the center of a Kashmir highway, what's going to happen? I'm going to get hit by a truck. The only option I have is to just leave it before the truck hits me. There is no other option. Even in the entire first world, they says, live with the water, do not fight the water. Get out of the way of
Learn
it.
from Dutch people, man.
Yes.
Simple as
yes, they are not living in the bed. First, you mark those boundaries. You get out of those zones, for example, 150, 200 feet. And on those boundaries, you build those dikes or levees. You build walls on that side. You don't build in the center of it.
I wish we
That's-
could have thought about Karachi like this. We could have thought about other cities. But, sir, this is not the priority of the government. Don't you
You know, the day we will have this special transmission in the dry season, that day we won't have any floods. We are very reactive and not proactive. The
Well,
day
sir.
this water is going to go on, nobody's
Ma'am,
going to
a
talk
quick
about that.
30-second comment from you, please.
My comment is that the climate change has to be realized as a continuous threat. He's absolutely spot on. We should be talking about the heat waves sitting when you're transmitting something in the winters. You should be talking of the winter fog in the summer days, because that's when your planning can take place. When we are in the thick of it, then we are only, just running helter-skelter and trying to kickstart some kind of desperate measures.
All right,
That
ma'am.
is not how you run a country.
Anyway, ma'am, thank you very much for your comments.
Thank you.
I hope we'll keep you engaged and we'll keep getting updates from you. And I would also like to thank you also, Abdullah. Thank you very much for your time in our program. And it was a pleasure listening to the technical side.
I hope I could first educate the people so that it's
I think
easy
that is
for
very
the
important.
government
Education, yes,
to
you
move
need to-
them and do everything. Education is the first step.
Absolutely. So anyway, thank you very much, sir. And well, this is the end of our first hour of our transmission. We'll continue our transmission after 5 o'clock for another 1 hour. Stay with us. Keep watching PTV World. Goodbye for now. Assalamu alaikum and welcome back to our special transmission on the floods in Pakistan and the relief efforts that are going on. Earlier we have had a good interaction with a couple of people and we got to know what exactly is going on in Balochistan, in DG Khan, in Karachi and elsewhere. And now we'll also be in fact talking to a couple of our correspondents and we'll be providing you the info regarding that. We have also been joined in by Shafqat Abbas, correspondent from PTV Rajanpur. Sir, if you allow me, Dr. Saab, we'll just have a quick conversation with Shafqat Abbas because Rajanpur is one area, sir, that has been badly affected by these floods. And there were reports that 500 people have been bitten by snakes there. Forget about the food scarcity or clean drinking water or the shelter issues. This particular event is unprecedented, no doubt. Assalamu alaikum, Shafqat Abbas Saab.
Walaikum salam, Faisal.
Shafqat Saab, good to have you in the program. And if you could speak a little louder, sir, that is going to be much clearer for our audience as well. Shafqat Saab, obviously we were talking about the rescue and the relief efforts by the government and by the private NGOs as well. A couple of religious organizations are really helping as well, like Jamaat-e-Islami, it's a political party. But sir, when we sort of try to visualize, so we cannot because we are sitting in Islamabad. You are somebody who's present in Rajanpur, one of the most affected areas. What do you see around you, sir? What's going on? Enough aid is approaching? What sort of a misery people are going through? What is the weather like? Please tell us.
Faisal, I'm here in Rujhan Mazari, most affected Tehseen of district Rajanpur. This Tehseen is hit from both sides. One from rainwater from Suleiman and from other side Sindh River. You know, water level in Sindh River is increasing days by day due to heavy monsoon rain in KPKA. It is also alarming for South Punjab area, which is already affected by flood due to increasing water level in Sindh River. Tonsa,
Yeah, but interestingly, one important, rather most important factor, Shafqat, is that the water which is currently passing under the Khattak bridge, where these two huge rivers meet, and you know, if you look at this Kabul river, even in normal days, it's so aggressive. It's brown and murky water, whereas when you look at Sindh, it's much clearer, the glacier world. Then they unite. Now, this time you are talking about extreme flooding in both of these rivers. And this water from that particular area is going to go into Punjab, then further down South Punjab, and then into Sindh. We cannot control the rain, sir, but we can have a planning. Do you think they are well aware of the days ahead, that what could happen in the coming days? If rain is there, this massive flood is also approaching. Currently, people are in misery. Anything related to that, sir?
Faisal, because you know, as you say, a big flood coming in Sindh River.
Oh.
As it reached Tonsa, Ichi Khan area and Muzaffargarh district, Rajanpur district is most under threat with more worse situation as we have now. Ichi Khan and Rajanpur district is badly hit from one side of Suleiman. If from other side Sindh River hits these areas, it will be big disaster, Khuda na khasta, and magnitude of loss will be more dangerous.
Now, Shafqat Abbas Saab, I was talking to one of our colleagues and he was reporting from DG Khan. What he told me that currently as we speak, Tonsa Barrage is experiencing a flood of 500,000 cusic. And this is going to go further up, and the estimates tell us this could be around 700,000 cusics to 800,000 cusics.
Exactly.
Sir, in that particular case, I mean, if the river is swollen to that level, sir, then God bless Pakistan.
Yes, you are right. Faisal, more than 1 million people are under threat. A big number of children of DG Khan, Rajanpur are suffering from different diseases.
Allahu Akbar.
Diarrhea, malaria, medicine is required in this area. Although medical camps of Pakistan Army and district government is working 24/7, but a large number of population has not access to these camps due to scattered area.
Now, one last comment, Shafqat Abbas, and that is about a story that I was reading in the paper, and it was very, very alarming because, you know, at the end of the day, you can rebuild the infrastructure, you can rebuild the roads, you can have better bridges, but sir, lost lives will never return. That is something we should be really concentrating on at the moment, sir. So there were reports that around 500 people have been bitten by snakes in Rojan. So obviously medical support is one thing if somebody is injured the arm or broken a leg, but you're talking about the anti-venom availability, and perhaps a far-flung area like Rajanpur or Rujhan. I mean, I'm sure nothing would have been done so far regarding that particular problem.
Yes, you are right. One thing more, the rates of vegetables and fruits are jumped 10 times higher, Faisal, as before flood. The main reason, supply of food goods and stopped on Pakistan, Punjab and Balochistan border due to heavy landslipping. Loss of billions of rupees reported as fruits and vegetables are stuck at the road side in that area.
Sir, that
Now,
particular produce, whether you talk about fruit or vegetables, the one that was being cultivated, we lost it. But the one that was in the storage or perhaps, I mean, loaded in the trucks to be transported, is going to perish also because the bridges, they have collapsed, the infrastructure has been washed away, eroded and all. So this is going to be a problem because, you know, when I woke up early this morning, I switched on the television and there was this report going on a couple of television channels regarding the prices of tomatoes and onions. They have tripled in places like Pindi and Islamabad.
This situation in South Punjab is more severe than Islamabad.
Oh my God. Well, sir.
Now, one thing, the message should be clear. The tanks are available in Rajan, but Rajan, the people are not ready to come out in the roads. They are not ready to leave their homes. The villages of their
I think, sir, awareness needs to be created because there is nothing more important than life, sir, to be very honest. I mean, you can always rebuild and you can always, you know, sort of compensate the material things. But when it comes to life, I think one has to be very, very careful because those who took risks, unfortunately, they all suffered. But anyway, thank you very much, Shafqat Abbas, for your comments. Now, we have also been joined by Javed Siddiq Sahab. Javed Sahab, Assalamu Alaikum. Javed Sahab, we were doing our transmission and we were just, in fact, going through the miseries of the people, the kind of problems that they are facing as we speak, shortage of food, clean drinking water, there is no shelter, no management, worst governance. Obviously, the magnitude and the size of the calamity is huge, but sir, there was no preparation, unfortunately. But let me start off from you, sir, since you are an expert. You said, sir, this is going to be a continuous phenomenon. We need to prepare. We need to be on the right footing and trying, you know, we should try to understand that, well, what if it comes again? We have learned no lessons from 2010, sir, to be very honest. We haven't learned anything from 2005. Commitments made, pledges made, nothing happened. And this is going to be like that, sir. Every person cannot be sort of compensated. But, sir, almost 1/3 of Pakistan is underwater, sir.
So, if we were very lucky people on the earth, having so many rivers flowing through our beloved country, and after the floods of 70s, and then the flood commission was formed to address the issues.
What do they do, sir, by the way?
So they did a wonderful, I would say they did a nice job in the beginning. They started from the protection. Let me first say there are 3 ways we can make ourselves protected. One, we have to have huge storage constructed here and there on the routes, not just in the north, but also if it overflows like both Mangla and
sir,
just 1 minute.
Were horses, I swear.
Just Mangla and Tarbela are full at their max capacity, and the inflow is outflow is more than the inflow from the last couple of days. That means they cannot help us at all to reduce the outflow and then reduce the volume of the water downstream. What I was trying to say, what flood commission started, they started the protection of the cities and on the way, first protection, second protection. I was part of a consultation in 90s after my PhD, when the flood commission was trying to make a good plan after 92 floods, that what we can do. Out of those consultations, 2 things came very strong from the people who used to be affected by the flood on the way of the 5 rivers. One, they were asking for that there should be some capacity along the system built from the north to the south, So, whenever it happens, we have the capacity to address this nearby, not just talking about from Islamabad or from Lahore or from somewhere else. So, that was mainly the centers that can help immediately be there to help them. So, that was a very good suggestion. Second,
Sir, let's talk about 2022, sir. Forget
I'm
about
coming to that.
1947.
I'm coming to that. If we have learned from those floods, and then 2010 came, that was a big
I
shock.
thought 2010 was an eye opener,
Big shock.
but it wasn't.
We thought now we will develop some strategy that it will not happen again.
Sir, intergovernmental issues, interprovincial issues. I mean, the blame game still is going on. People say, well, you know, you should not say so because, you know, at the end of the day, we are all Pakistanis. We are not the political parties here, but, you know, we should gel together. Come on, sir. Nothing is happening. Still blame game and, you know, blaming each other.
No, yeah, yes,
but you know, but I think, sir, I believe in one thing. Where there is a will, there is a way.
Yes,
There is no will, there was no will. We have always been very reactive, never been proactive. We wait till the water gets here and then we start, you know, yelling and all.
In the last 2010 flood, I was sitting in a community and asking what happens and why didn't you move before the floods? Said it comes every year. We thought it's at the same level, and then they were sleeping on the rooftop.
Sir, weather pattern has changed. Now you are in the line of fire. Whether we like it or we don't, we have to accept this reality that the cancer is there. You cannot totally get rid of that, but you can slow down the dying process. That is what. Javed Saab, what's the news, sir?
The news is that the country was warned of unusual level of rains.
3 months ago.
Exactly. So what were they doing? What were the relevant organizations,
Javed Saab, don't you
institutions?
know? You're asking me.
No, what they were doing. I mean, they were not prepared. And let us admit that our
personal interest in their politics is more important to them
and
than Pakistan. Simple as that.
That our institutions lack the capacity and the capability to face this kind of natural calamity and disaster. That is the key thing. So I think, yes, we have not learned lessons from the past disasters, 2005, 2010, and we haven't learned anything. So, you know, yes, there were heavy rains, torrential rains, Balochistan, Sindh, now KPK, parts of Punjab. As you have rightly said, 1/3 of the country is under the water. And now we are looking towards our friends to help us out. You know, talking to UAE and Saudi Arabia. And
as we speak right now, the first, I think, cargo jet has landed that has brought in the relief.
And UAE yesterday said that we are going to send you about 20,000 tents and blankets and all these kind of things.
So you're talking about 33 million people.
Exactly.
33 million people.
Even yesterday, you know, the Kabul River was flooding and almost 350,000 people have been rescued from there. So I think we were not prepared for this massive, you know, flood and massive natural calamity. Our institutions, for instance, NDMA. NDMA was there in 2005, NDMA was there in 2010, and now what NDMA is doing? I mean, they haven't learned any lessons. They have not been able to increase their capacity. The NDMA was also active during the COVID-19.
I remember, sir.
They did nothing. So what have you learned? What lessons we have learned? That is the most unfortunate part of our national life. So what we need, and you have rightly said, coordination also lacks. Unfortunately, the federal government and the provincial government are not on the same page. You know, there are differences. They should
keep those differences aside, sir. You can do politics after a month.
They should sink these differences in this flood water and come out as a unified nation, as a unified body, and rescue the people whose houses have been blown away, swept away, and who are homeless, who are hungry and begging for, you know, 2 chapatis.
Just imagine.
So what is this? And you know, in the social media, the inability of the local government and the provincial governments and the other relevant institutions and the district administration is being discussed threadbare. So where are these institutions? So unfortunately, we need to learn lessons. We need to put our act together, and we have to be in coordination with each other. And you know, if the foreign aid comes, which is beginning to trickle down, it's not so good, it's not so massive, so that it is able to basically alleviate the sufferings of the people.
Javed Saab, the worst part is that the problem hasn't come yet. It is going to be coming in the next week or so once this water is going to pass through.
Recedes.
It's not 1033. It's going to be God knows what number.
Exactly. The homeless
because the people who have been missing, forget about the cattle, their livelihood.
And the spread of disease.
Post
flood situation, you know, multiple problems.
Gastro and waterborne diseases.
All these kinds of things. So we need to take care of all these things, and there should be a planning now. Just going and visiting people and delivering them some food stuff and some tents and some blankets, something like this, it's not enough. We have to have a massive effort, we have to have a strong planning, and we have to have a coordination among all the national institutions so that an effective measure is taken and the people are rescued from this huge.
You know what really worries me? I mean, look at the current economic conditions, sir. Forget about IMF or no IMF. They give you the money or they don't give you the money. Forget about the charges on corruption and XYZ, what have been framed or genuine or whatever. Sir, your GDP is going to get affected because of this flood.
Exactly.
This is going to be, because last time I remember, sir, it was around $12 billion worth of damages in 2010. Yes. This is going to be well over 25.
Exactly. Because
if not more. And Javed Saab, what about the Kharif crops? What about the next? Because they are not prepared. They think they cannot prepare the ground for the next season.
The current crop has been completely destroyed. And your correspondent was telling you a while ago that the prices of the vegetables have tripled. And nobody is going to, and you know,
we talked about the roads. Current today, the inflation was at 44%, sir.
Exactly. So
add this misery.
The roads, the infrastructure is totally damaged, and the trucks and the communication system is just it is nowhere.
Come to a halt.
So you know, for a long period of time, maybe 5 weeks, the people living in cities where the flood has not been able to create,
they will also suffer. They should suffer because only then they'll understand and they realize the kind of misery those people are going through.
The price hike is going to kill the people.
Absolutely,
so I think there are multiple
price hike, your electricity. Anyway, it's a different debate, but
I think it's very hard to imagine what kind of miseries those people are going through.
I'm just last time, you know, I remember 2005 and also in 2010, I was out in the field reporting, and oh my God, I cannot tell you what I went through. It was a post-traumatic stress disorder issue, I swear, for about a few months. This time, sir, I'm just watching it on the television, and I swear the scale is so big that we never thought these barrages will be collapsing. Hotels of that size, almost the size of Marriott for that matter, being eroded away.
And that is basically that debris is coming into the system, further sort of lowering the capacity of the system to handle this kind of water. What I'm seeing is that at this stage we should forget about what warnings we ignored. The 2010 was the biggest warning we got. We didn't learn from that. In 3 months warning, we were unable to do even anything
because it wasn't the priority.
Except that we could have done our homework on how we can support the people if that happens. At this stage, I think even more than what IMF can do, the people of Pakistan, I trust their capacity and I trust their sort of passion. I was in a small village yesterday, and I was talking on the development with the very poor people. When I shared with them what's happening, they committed ₹500,000 rupees in just less than an hour, and that is there. And that is how the people reacted to 2005 earthquake. You know, as you were covering, and we were in a bog, and then seeing people bringing everything that they can. In Suzuki, small Suzuki, someone traveled all the way from Balochistan to Kashmir to bring some stuff over there. People are there. What we need to see is in this kind of situation, in bringing things that is even gathered, that is on our airports, is very hard to
get it delivered at the right spot.
Delivered because
you can't
of the
airlift everything, sir.
When because in this situation,
and sir, just imagine 1/3 of Pakistan, and let's say 3.3 crore people. Just imagine the entire population of Scandinavia multiplied by 2 and then multiplied once again by 2.
So,
sir, if you allow me,
just one
quick comment, because we've also been joined in by one of our correspondent from Tonsa Sharif, Dr. Muhammad Amin Saab. Let's see what he has to share, because that is another area. Because at the moment I talk about Rajanpur, or Jahan, Tonsa, whatever city, everyone has been struck so badly because of these floods.
South Punjab.
Especially because then it gets flat, you know. Assalamu alaikum ji. Amin Saab.
Walaikum assalam.
Amin Saab, first of all, tell us about the weather forecast in that area, sir. How is it?
So, giving us opportunity to represent my area, flood affected people. Now the weather is a little bit clear, but the areas and villages near Indus River Basin are high alerted due to high floods in Sindh River. And I want to elaborate a little bit. The pre-monsoon rain intensity was moderate, but after 13 August there were the rain intensity was too much high, and that caused very flash floods and affected the people of interior Salam and as the union councils and Tehseel Tonsa Sharif. And believe me, we the social workers, only social workers, no single department of government Punjab involved in those activities. We approached interior Salam areas. Believe me, there were some communities living on goat milk since 3 years, and they were fighting and crying at us because they were so desperate. They don't know what to do. There is very hard barriers for us to reach there. We take the food and other items on foot to the flood affected areas.
But now one important factor, sir, you know, government has a limited capacity. People have limited capacity. Obviously, food scarcity is going to be the issue, because, you know, when you talk about the relief and rescue operation, that is the immediate response for the first 2, 3, 4 days. Then comes the real challenge of having tons, then continuous supply of food, rehabilitation, and then you talk about reconstruction, because when you talk about the infrastructure, it's gone, it's history. People are suffering. So what about the immediate relief? Tell us about that. What about the food scarcity issues? I mean, medicine for that matter, clean drinking water, because just imagine there is no water and there is water everywhere. That's the situation.
Yes, you are right. Actually, these efforts are just time-dependent basis. But we need long-term and mechanized and organized efforts by NGOs, national or international or government sector activities. But these should be organized, mechanized, and a proper basic and initial survey should be done. The social mobilization teams and local community social workers are helping in this regard. So it is requested to all authorities to take immediate actions in interior Salam regions, where they are unable to take their patients to nearby hospitals.
All right, thank you very much, for being with us and telling us about. Now, sir, we have had a chat with most of these people who are in the South Punjab region. Sindh, you talk about Sattar, you talk about Badeen. I mean, these are the areas, sir, which are the actual agricultural areas. But I mean, I am not sure, sir, what is going to happen to the entire people of Pakistan. We have no money. We have been begging, borrowing from left, right and center. And sir, there is already a shortage of 4 million tons of wheat. Next produce, if it's not there, whatever we had has been destroyed. Javed Sahab?
Pakistan was already hard pressed economically. And
Ukraine war is going on over there, so wheat prices have skyrocketed.
This natural disaster or calamity has multiplied our problems, intensified them, and the nation doesn't have the resources to basically combat the situation effectively. I think that the UN is going to launch an appeal maybe tomorrow or day after, and we are expecting some aid.
Sir, I remember in 2005 earthquake, we ended up getting $7.6 billion.
Exactly.
Because Musharraf Saab was in power. He was somebody who was listened to. And on top, sir, we were the frontline allies of the non-NATO allies in the war on terror.
And then
exactly.
We need to learn lessons now. And we are depending now to a great degree to the foreign assistance that we are expecting in the days to come. And also, somebody has mentioned that rich people in Pakistan, moneyed people, should come forward and donate generously to these flood affectees so that they can rebuild their houses, so that they can be taken care of.
That is going to come later. But sir, when we talk about the immediate relief, the first week. Now, I remember, Javed Sahab, I was also, during the coverage of this 2010, while coming back from Peshawar, so there were so many people, they had their tents all along the motorway, actually on the motorway. And they had their own cattle and the livestock, and they were asking for their food, fodder basically. And then, they said, please give us cooked food. We don't have any facility to cook. Because sir, this is, when we talk about the IDPs or so-called the people who got displaced during the war on terror and everything, sir, that number was very little. Very little. 2.3, 2.7 million.
Here, I think millions of people have been affected so
and that was
terribly.
In a limited area. This is all over Pakistan.
So what we need now is basically to coordinate nationally and internationally so that we are able to help these people out. The rebuilding and resettling them, the people in Sindh, in Balochistan and South Punjab particularly, and also now KPK, so that they have their homes, whatever homes they have, they should be rebuilt, give them new shelters, A. B, for that time, I mean for that period of time.
Javed Sahab, you were talking about $25-30 billion or something.
But
I'm not kidding.
No. But we are already talking about 4-5 months later. We have to do something now.
No, but basically that is the scenario. For the time being, I think a very difficult time is there for all of us. And we will not be able to mobilize the resources of that scale so that immediately we are able to give a substantial aid to these people. What we can do, provide them food, drinking water, clean, neat drinking water, and also the medicines so that they could survive. And particularly in some areas where the water is going to recede, their settlements have to be rebuilt, and for that they need aid. And the army and other institutions are also very active. They are delivering these things, but there is a shortage, and that shortage needs to be met from external sources as well as from internal. External, the Islamic countries, OIC has also appealed to the world to come to the rescue of the Pakistani people. UN is also going to launch an appeal. Saudi Arabia, UAE, Qatar and other countries are also helping us, and their NGOs are also active in many parts of Pakistan, particularly in Sindh and Balochistan. So we hope that this aid is going to, at least to some extent, is going to give them relief. But on the long run, the infrastructure that has been massively affected.
Oh, yes, sir.
That needs billions of dollars to be rebuilt. The bridges, the roads, particularly in Balochistan, in northern part of Pakistan, KPK and Sindh. So massive effort is required. Let's hope that the international community comes out in a big way to help us out.
Now, I would like your comment on that part also, but sir, let me add another question here. Normally, sir, when we talk about water, because even if the road gets clear, then there are spots like where there are 3 to 4 to 5 feet, in certain places 6 to 7 to 8 feet of water that's standing there. Not sure how dengue is going to react to it. Today I was listening that 1,000 cases have been reported in Karachi, water, because if the water standing is going to be there. God forbid, I hope this doesn't happen, because then you are talking about something very different. How long does it take, sir, to water to recede to a level that the ground is clear, basically? You can step on it, you can construct something, or you can sort of...
It always depends what kind of foolish acts we have already put in place, sir, in the name of development in our cities and around the cities, and in the areas, rural areas. So far, we have developed more than 80% of our flood protection infrastructure around our cities, making Lahore, Multan and all these cities safer, and making those rural areas more vulnerable.
Yes.
In these 70 years, we haven't learned from where to break that protection when it comes to that level. Every time, whoever is in power, we will decide from where to break it, to save their own sort of interests, and then let other people say. Everybody living in those areas, they know it, that how they are made to suffer in 2010. They were crying, they were telling, it never it was broken from this time.
Sir, I can give you
it happened.
This long list of the way they had broken those
from the wrong place.
Wrong places, just to save the lands of one person versus the entire city. Mostly from Sindh.
And then ill-planned development. Sometimes we have sort of created barriers against the water that can go back to the rivers and then to the. Sometimes it takes months. In 2010, we were afraid that in Sindh it took longer than we expected. In South Punjab, it took little less than what we expected, and they were able to sow their wheat crop. And 2010 also happened in September.
I remember.
Water sowing, wheat sowing is in October and November.
It wasn't ready.
So it was a bit delayed, and I was arguing in all UN meetings and here and there that yes, we need to provide them food, but we also need they need immediately the seeds for the next wheat crop. If we will not be able to provide them the seeds, because everything is gone, they don't have any seeds, even if the water recedes, they will not be able to.
Useless.
So then army was involved. We even have had meetings with them, and they were convinced, and they made the arrangements, excellent arrangements, to distribute seeds to all the areas where we were working, and we saved our winter crop. Whatever livestock is left, we are always thinking about saving the human being.
You lost over 1 million.
Their livelihood now depends whatever is the livestock left. So we never provide them fodder and other stuff that they need. And then even if you get aid from the other friendly countries, it will not come as feed or fodder. That we'll have to arrange ourselves and see what we can make.
Well, sir, tough times ahead. Very tough times ahead. So,
seeds,
I'm also
seeds, third thing.
Sir?
What you said, drinking water. It's the toughest thing to provide.
No, sir, I've got a few questions for you. The way I asked about the receding, and then it depends on the where the land is, what sort of the land. it is, and then what do you want to harvest there? I mean, that's a different ball game altogether. So, for example, if the water recedes, obviously the water table is going to go up. At some stage, it might take some time. How quickly a well can have clean drinking water?
When
This whole entire filtration, natural filtration.
The organizations working on.
You have to clean it properly.
No.
Or it can naturally.
I think it will be a natural process with some sort of. They have now tablets.
Last time I think they were giving some tablets.
Yeah. Exactly, I remember, sir.
And put them
something
there
like Disprin
in the glass, and then you can drink it.
They are able to clean the water at least for the drinking purpose. Make it safe.
Making it safe.
Yeah.
What we are seeing this time, that that's different from 2010. In 2010, in the country there was more than, I think, 40,000 NGOs
working,
rushed, and all international big NGOs.
There was a 1 week long live transmission on every channel.
They have had,
including PTV.
Their target is to be there in first 48 hours. That even our governments do not have that kind of readiness.
I still remember, sir, Jamaatul Dawa for that matter, let me take the name. The point is they were there.
In Dubai.
Jamaat-e-Islami has always been very active.
Al-Khidmat is very active.
Yes.
Very active.
In Dubai.
Muslim Foundation, sir, what was the name?
Muslim Hands.
Muslim Hands, yes. They were very,
this time,
I haven't heard much from them.
This time Islamic Relief was the first to go there. But we are missing many NGOs who were there last time. They are trained. They are trained. They know what they need to be provided in the first 48 hours or 72 hours or 1 week. That is emergency relief. And then comes the early relief things. And even if you provide wheat flour or so in this first week, it's useless.
It's useless. That's exactly
it's
what
all dry food and medicine
or cooked food.
And water and some wash. They need some kind of soap and other stuff, because otherwise the waterborne diseases.
Some biscuits, dates, for example, packet milk or dry milk for that matter for the children.
Easy to deliver.
So grams. So that kind of that they can keep it, save it, if and take whatever they need.
We call that the deg. I mean, cooked deg. I mean, if loaded from Pindi and sent to Nushaira, let's suppose.
Some organizations are delivering it. They are doing it right now, but not at the scale.
Sir, people do not even understand what to do, who to go to, how to do it.
Exactly. And I think the other thing that is being discussed after these huge floods is that we have not been able to construct dams for storage of water.
Javed Saab, political Jamhuriyat, democracy is the name of the game. Forget about the people.
This disastrous effect of this natural calamity. If we had been able to build a few dams and storage for water.
Sir, in 2010, the amount of water that washed away everything on its way to the river, to this Arabian Sea, that was calculated at 120 billion dollars.
Yes, that's right.
Now, sir, you talk about $300 billion worth of water that has damaged around $30 billion worth of your infrastructure, and we will not learn, trust me, because sir, just by saying on the national TV and let's be honest. But Javed Saab, totally running out of time, sir. Gone.
Thank you so much.
Anyway, sir, thank you very much for your participation. It was a pleasure having you, sir. Thank you so much. And that's all we have for this hour. I'll see you, inshallah, tomorrow at 8. Till then, you take good care of yourself. Hopefully, we will be doing a program on the same issue, and we'll be updating you what exactly has happened. Let's hope and pray there is no more rain. Let's hope and pray that the government does something now, because it's now or it's never. It's useless. I'll see you, inshallah. Khuda Hafiz.